Nowadays, there are two AI camps. On the one hand, you have the people who say AI software is awesome and is going to revolutionize everything. And on the other hand, you have the people who say AI is the spawn of the devil and is going to murder us all in our sleep. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle of these two extremes. But in any case, software these days runs absolutely everything. From your smartphone to your online banking to your washing machine to your car, everything is run by software. And all of that software is written by coders. But while everyone is distracted by this whole "our computers are going to overpower us" thing, no one is asking the question about what if we actually have some effect over our computers? Okay, what the heck am I talking about? Well, ask any coder, and chances are they've run into this problem of the code that never should have worked in the first place, but did anyway. In other words, silly humans often write silly and bad code that's actually a steaming pile of garbage. It doesn't work at all. And sometimes that results in bugs. That's why you have things like Windows Update and updates for your smartphone, and your Windows Update crashes, your computer crashes. There are bugs in software. Everyone knows this. Usually that's the result of bad code. But often, far too often actually, the bad code actually runs just fine, sometimes for years on end. How is that possible? What on earth is going on here? Now, to keep things simple, I'm not going to show you any scary samples of code because that would probably put everyone to sleep and make you go cross-eyed. So instead, I'm going to use the analogy of building a house. In order to build a house with code, you need a function or a method, and you can think of this as simply a magic box. The magic box, its purpose is to build a house. Now, for the purposes of our magic box, we have 4 inputs to the magic box and 1 output from the magic box. Now, ideally, when we're done, the output of the magic box will be a beautiful finished home. We're also going to need 4 inputs, so we have, let's see, we're going to need a builder or several builders. We're going to need some power tools, because you can't build a house without tools. Of course, we're going to need building materials to build the house. And finally, we're going to need various other little rules and regulations, knowledge input, let's say, blueprints for the house, zoning permission, like electrical codes, that sort of thing. So we take our 4 inputs and we code Magic Box to take these 4 inputs and use them to build a house. It can build a house of any color, shape, size, and the output is, ta-da, a beautiful house. Wasn't that easy? Well, this is what my Magic Box function was supposed to do. That's how it was supposed to work. But this is how it actually worked. Yes, that's actually a monkey hanging from a tree clinging to a banana. And you'll also note on the left-hand side that instead of using all 4 inputs, we're only paying attention to the tool input. So how on earth could a monkey hanging from a tree with a bunch of tools but none of the other stuff actually end up building a house? Obviously, this is not going to work, right? Well, I finished up the rest of the application, and it came time to make it live, and I did. And guess what happened next? The whole thing worked beautifully for 5.5 years. So of course the day it broke, I went in and I fixed it and fixed the Magic Box, removed the monkey and his banana, and put the code up. And then I set about investigating what the heck happened. How is it possible that this function, this crazy monkey, could ever have been building beautiful houses for over 5 years when clearly that Magic Box could never, there's no way it could make a house? Now, coders usually use some kind of version control such as Git, and so do I. So I was able to sort of go back in time. When you use version control, you write code, you commit your changes, and it kind of takes a snapshot of everything. And with all these snapshots over time, if you make a boo-boo, you can roll back all your code without all kinds of duplicated work. But it also lets you go back and see, like, I did this on this day, then this on this day, and that on that day, and so on. So I used my version control, and I looked, and I was like, well, what the heck happened here? So the story is that one day, I was coding, and I said, I need to make Magic Box to build houses, right? Okay, So I start coding Magic Box. Then dinner time came, and I went, ooh, I'm pretty hungry because I've been coding all day. So, all right, went off to dinner. While I was at dinner, I thought, geez, there's this other thing I gotta, okay, yeah, maybe I'll do that tonight and I'll finish Magic Box later, right? It's more important than, okay. So I get back to my computer, I start working on this other stuff. The other stuff took me 2 to 3 days to finish. So when it came time to go back to Magic Box and finish it, I kind of didn't. I went back and I looked at it and I said, oh yeah, Magic Box, I remember that, I finished that the other night. Except I hadn't. So I just pushed it on through and went, yep, finished the rest of the app, pushed it up, made it live, worked beautifully, until one day it didn't. The fact is, it should never have worked in the first place. There's no logical or rational reason why it worked for over 5 years. It shouldn't have. I have to add here because I know what people are thinking. They're saying like, yeah, but like, you were using another library and that library got updated. No, check that out. It was an update to browsers. No, check that out. It was a Windows update. It was this, it was that. No, I looked at every possibility. When you write code, you get very good at paying attention to details. I looked at all the details. I didn't miss anything. I'm sure of it. And with version control, it's hard to miss right. So, okay, what is the explanation for this problem? Well, of course, I have a few theories. One of my theories is what I call the code-SIBO effect. That's kind of like the placebo effect, where you have maybe an experimental drug trial to cure some disease, and so of course half the people maybe are given the real drug to try, and the other half the people are given sugar pills. And of course, sometimes the people who take the sugar pills, because they believe that this drug is going to cure them of their disease, they actually get better. All they're doing is taking sugar pills. Their belief in the medication, or rather the sugar pill, is what actually cures them. And this is well accepted, everyone knows about it. So maybe the same thing happens with code. The code-SIBO effect. That's one of my ideas. The second idea is that maybe reality is a little bit more fluid than we think. So maybe we can think of sort of like parallel realities or parallel timelines. So in this timeline, I actually wrote good code. But then at some point, 5.5 years in the future, reality split, or I jumped to another timeline, or something weird like that happened. And in that reality, I had written crap code, and so that's why that specific day it stopped working. I mean, you see the lengths we coders have to go to explain this stuff, because no one can give us a logical, reasonable explanation. It's bonkers. It shouldn't have worked. It did. How do I explain that? And the fact is that many, many coders have actually encountered this, but they won't talk about it. And the reason they won't talk about it is because they don't want everyone to think that they're crazy. And worse yet, they don't want everyone saying like, oh, you're not being scientific. Well, my question is, how come science isn't explaining this for me? Because I'm not a scientist, I'm a coder, right? Well, science has its own problems at the minute. For example, here on science.org, we read an article called "Fake Scientific Papers Are Alarmingly Common, but New Tools Show Promise in Tackling Growing Symptom of Academia's Publish or Perish Culture." Or how about this article from The Guardian, "The situation has become appalling. Fake scientific papers push research credibility to crisis point." Last year, that would be in 2023, 10,000 sham papers had to be retracted by academic journals, but experts think this is just the tip of the iceberg. And finally, on the website Reason, we have another article, "Academics Use Imaginary Data in Their Research. Academia Values the Appearance of Truth over Actual Truth." Now, in this last article, apparently many scientists and researchers, when they don't have the data to support their theory, they're simply creating it out of thin air. It's just fake data. And then they get published and peer-reviewed and all that stuff. So peer-reviewed and all that doesn't even mean what it used to mean. So, right, maybe science is kind of useless and that's why it can't explain it. But then again, maybe I'm being a little too harsh on science, because a lot of good science is also being done. Then again, maybe, I mean, here's a crazy thought, like if coders are experiencing this problem where that function should never have worked but it did anyway, or we have like splitting realities or something, what are like scientists publishing data and then the data magically changes after the publication of the paper and they're sitting there just as stumped as I am? I mean, like, it all sounds crazy, but you see my problem here. Even if we are all crazy, I still want an answer to the question why. How? How is it possible? And no one can give me a satisfactory answer. So, I don't know. What do you think? What's your explanation for it? Let me know in the comments below. For more techie tips, see ScottiesTech.Info. Thanks for watching. See you next time.